Thanks for watching Afternoon Live. They are athletes who define the word grit. In our next guest documentary film, he followed 4 high school athletes with disabilities through a roller coaster ride of injuries and rule changes in their attempt to make the U.S. Paralympic track and field team. Here to tell us more, we welcome the director of Let 'Em Play, Scott Marshutz. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me about your introduction to parasports and what eventually inspired you to document these stories and make this film.
Sure. Back in 2016, I was pitched on an event called the Angel City Games that was being held in Los Angeles. And I was doing some freelance writing at the time. And so when I showed up at UCLA, I was just blown away. My jaw just dropped open as to how many para-athletes were competing at this event. And it introduced me to a whole new world. And right away, I knew it was more than a one-off story. It was a film.
Each of their individual stories is so incredible and inspiring, but I think a lot of people are surprised by how complicated the process is. Tell us a little bit about the classifications, and some athletes kind of change their specialties and able to compete at the next level.
Yeah, so that was the whole point of making the film too, is to show the process of how they get classified. And some athletes, will start at a certain event and then realize they, maybe aren't that competitive and will jump to another event within their classification. So it really depends on where they excel and how well they excel in it.
And as these kids are going through, their high school careers at this part of the story, and they're spending hours training, maybe on top of other physical therapy and taking care of their responsibilities as students. Are you still amazed at this point at what they're accomplishing day in and day out?
Right. When I started this story, they were, all of them were pretty much in their junior or senior year. And they were just trying to get into it. So they had to, get coaching and find some resources to help them travel. And there was, all kinds of factors involved. And so that was another reason, to show that whole process of where they start and where they can end up at.
Tell us a little about Michelle. She's somebody who began as a cross-country runner and then ended up sprinting in much shorter races, right?
Right. So when the California Interscholastic Federation adopted the rules for para-athletes, they had only a certain amount of events for the para-athletes, for the high school para-athletes. So even though Michelle was a cross-country runner, she had to, change over to sprinting events in order to compete at the state meet, and that's why that happened. And a lot of the para-athletes had to, change their sport. In other words, to be able to fit into those new rules that the state of California had adopted.
What's it like for you as we've just recently wrapped up the Paralympic Games in Paris? It must be super fun for you to cheer on people that you've been watching for several years now, and for them to be on that biggest stage and overcome so many obstacles to get to the top level.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely followed several. Unfortunately, the 4 main characters in my film didn't make the cut. They didn't make the team, but I still saw a number of the athletes that are seen in footage in my film competing at the games. So that was exciting.
Great to celebrate all of them. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Of course, the documentary is called Let 'Em Play, and we'll have more information on our website at katu.com. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.